You ever heard of a man who had everything yet felt emptier than anyone in the room? That was Victor Langston. On paper, he was the king of tech 10 billion in the bank. His name whispered in boardrooms from New York to Silicon Valley. But truth be told, every night after conquering his empire, Victor slipped into a booth at a run-down diner on the wrong side of the city. The floors were scuffed. The neon sign sputtered like it was begging for retirement, and the coffee tasted like burnt resignation. Still, he came back night after night for one reason. Her. Her name tag read Maria. She wasn't polished like the women in Victor's world, hair always slipping loose from a ponytail, eyes tired from double shifts, shoes worn thin. But she had this quiet fire in her, this stubborn light that somehow cut through the smoke and grease of that place. He watched her treat a drunk with more dignity than most CEOs gave their employees slip extra pancakes to kids who clearly hadn't had enough to eat, and listen to lonely old men as if their rambling actually mattered. Victor could predict stock markets with terrifying accuracy, but he couldn't predict her, and it drove him insane. For 37 nights, he built stories in his head about why a woman like that was stuck slinging coffee in a dying diner. But one rainy Tuesday, he noticed something different. Her hand trembled as she poured his cup. A crease of worry cut deeper between her brows. When a customer left a big tip, Maria stared at it like it wasn't luck, it was math. Desperate math. That was when Victor's curiosity turned darker. He knew the city. People did what they had to do. Drugs, debts, hustles. Maybe her kindness was just a cover. That thought gnawed at him until her shift ended. He followed. Maria walked out the back door, rain pelting her jacket, and grabbed 2 duffel bags from behind a dumpster so heavy they dragged at her frame. This was it, Victor thought. He'd found the crack in her halo. He tailed her down side streets past flickering lights and graffiti-tagged brick. This was no neighborhood for a man in a $1,000 coat, yet he kept going, heart-pounding, ready to confirm the ugly truth. She slipped into the basement of a crumbling building. Victor crept across, crouched at a window, rain soaking his suit. He braced himself for needle smoke dealers, but what he saw knocked the wind out of him. Inside, Maria wasn't trading drugs. She was stacking cans, lining shelves with bread milk diapers, handing medicine to a young mom with a feverish child, wrapping a blanket around an old man's shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. The basement glowed under bare bulbs, patched rugs softening the concrete mismatched tables full of people who looked like they had nowhere else to go. On the wall hung a wooden board painted by hand. The Haven's wing, not one soul forgotten. Victor stumbled back from the glass, ashamed. He had judged her like every cynical voice in his world had taught him to, and she had proved him wrong in the most devastating way. The next night he tried to help. When Maria brought his check, he slid 5 crisp hundreds under it. She glanced down, peeled 1 bill out, tucked it in her apron, and laid the rest back on the table. "The coffee's $3, sir. This is already more than generous. Thank you." She walked away before he could argue. Victor, the man who bought companies with a flick of his pen, had just had his generosity thrown back like pocket change. He tried again. 2 nights later, he stood in the alley with a sealed envelope. "Maria," he called softly. She froze, her eyes narrowing when she recognized him. "I know what you're doing here. The Haven's wing. I saw you, and I want to help." He held out the envelope inside a cashier's check for $100,000. She didn't even touch it. "No. Maria, listen. You think this is a business deal?" She cut him off, fire sparking in her tired eyes. "You think you can fix us with money? My family had a grocery store 3 generations. We lost it when a developer tripled our rent to build condos. That's how we ended up here, with people like you pulling the strings from your towers. You don't get to buy your way into this basement. We don't need saviors in suits. We need our dignity." Victor's throat went dry. He'd faced cutthroat billionaires and come out on top, but one exhausted waitress had stripped him bare with a single truth. As she turned away, he heard something else. A man whispered to her, "Thorne's raising the rent again. I don't know what we're going to do." That name lodged in Victor's mind like a splinter. Thorne. The next morning, he skipped his meeting, stormed into his CFO's office. "Find me everything on a developer named Marcus Thorne. I want it yesterday." By nightfall, he had the file. And it gutted him. Thorne was a predator buying up low-income neighborhoods, pushing families into the streets, flipping buildings into luxury towers. And the worst part, Victor's own investment fund was backing Thorne with $90 million. He wasn't just a bystander. He was the villain. That realization nearly broke him. But then it hardened into something else. Resolve. 2 days later, Victor Langston walked into Thorne's glass fortress alone. No entourage, no bodyguards, just him and a slim folder. Thorne smirked, hand outstretched, playing the big man. "Mr. Langston, to what do I owe the honor?" Victor didn't shake his hand. He sat across from him and said, calm as ice, "We need to talk about Haven Street." Thorne chuckled. "Ah, the slum. Don't worry, we're clearing it out. Returns are going to be spectacular. You call destroying families spectacular. That's business, Victor. You know that better than anyone. And don't forget, your money is what's making it happen." For the first time, Victor didn't flinch. "You're right, and that ends now. Effective immediately. I'm pulling every cent. I'll eat the $87 million in penalties if I have to." Thorne laughed, sharp and cruel. "You wouldn't burn $87 million. No sane man would. This isn't about sanity." Victor leaned forward, his voice dropping to a razor edge. "This is about justice, and I'm not just pulling the money. I've already handed your little code violations and harassment lawsuits to the press. By morning, your name will be synonymous with slumlord." Thorne's smile cracked. Victor slid the document across the table. "And thanks to the integrity clause in our contract, I now control those properties. They'll be transferred to a nonprofit housing trust run by the residents themselves. You get nothing." Thorne's jaw clenched, color draining from his face. Victor stood. "One more thing. There's a woman named Maria running the Haven's wing in the basement of one of those buildings. If you so much as breathe near her, I will bury you in court and in every paper in this country." Do I make myself clear? Thorne, the predator, could only nod like a beaten dog. The news hit Haven Street like sunrise after a long night. Eviction notices ripped up, rents slashed, families crying in relief on their doorsteps. And Maria, she didn't believe it until Mr. Alvarez, the old man with the sick granddaughter, waved the legal papers in her face. "They can't kick us out. We're safe." That night, Victor walked down the same basement steps he'd once watched from the shadows. Maria looked up wary. He didn't bring money this time. He brought papers. "This," he said, "is the charter for the Haven's Wing Foundation. Registered nonprofit. Real bank accounts. A board. Protection. You deserve more than duffel bags and damp concrete." Her eyes filled, but not with pity. With something deeper. Gratitude she couldn't put into words. Why, she whispered. Victor took a breath. "Because for 37 nights I watched you fight for people the world forgot, and I realized I'd forgotten myself. I thought power was about what I owned. You showed me it's about what you protect. I don't want to be your benefactor. I want to be your partner." She studied him for a long moment, then finally smiled a smile that lit the room brighter than any bare bulb. "All right, Victor. Let's get to work." Months later. The Haven's wing had a new home, a renovated warehouse with sunlight streaming in walls, painted fresh kids laughing in a play corner. Victor brought systems and money. Maria brought humanity and heart. They clashed, they argued, but together they built something real. And one evening, sitting side by side on a stack of lumber, sharing greasy pizza, Victor admitted, "I've built empires out of steel and glass, but nothing I've built ever mattered as much as this." Maria smiled, shaking her head. "You just needed a better blueprint." They both laughed, the kind of laugh that carries years of weight off your shoulders. And maybe in that moment, the billionaire and the waitress stopped being opposites and started being the proof that sometimes the richest thing a man can find isn't sitting in his vault. It's sitting across from him, holding a slice of pizza, reminding him what it means to be human. So now I've got to ask you, if you were Maria, would you have trusted him? Or would you have sent him back to his glass tower? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was he a savior, or just another man trying to wash his sins clean? Let's talk about it. And if this story struck a chord with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that'll make you question what wealth really means.